What's going on, everyone? It's your favorite racing, fighting, and role-playing gaming Jackal, Godric here, and welcome back to another The Crew Retrospective. This is part 3, or episode 3, whichever you prefer. So in the first episode, I talked about the main game and the main story of said game. Plus, I talked about the specs of the vehicles that are in the original game. In part 2, or episode 2, actually talked about the Wild Run update, which actually added a few more cars, such as the Lamborghini Huracan, the Mercedes AMG GT, as well as the Subaru BRZ. And also talk about the extreme specs, the circuit, the drift, the drag, and monster truck specs. So that's 3 of them for the most part. And now today's episode, I'm just going to tell you guys about the color units update plus the actual thing that a lot of us wanted to do for a long time, and that is to play as a freaking cop. And last but certainly not least, I'm actually going to tell you guys about the actual effect of the crew as a whole, as to the main game for the most part. Now, unfortunately, due to the fact that no one was actually playing the crew, please do, because you never know. If you haven't beat the game yet, if you haven't collected all the cars yet, if you haven't done any sort of PvP, then please do so, because you never know what's going to happen to literally the last few days of the crew. And due to the fact that the game ends in the 31st, we're at the 17th. So please do actually play the crew as much as possible, beat it, and then do all the activities that you want to do for a while. That is if you have the physical copy as well as the DLC. So there's that for the most part. Anyways, it's time to do this. Alright, so the newest thing about the Call of Duty update is the crate missions. The crate missions usually will involve literally 4 players, well, 8 people actually, 4 players and 4 cops. The players are usually, the racers are usually the one that is literally protecting the transport as much as possible, along with other players who actually wanted to have a fair share of the actual thing for the most part. Not to mention, in terms of the cops are a lot more aggressive in this one. But if you're a player who actually are driving around as cop cars, then it could be pretty cheesy, to say the least, due to the fact that, well, one, you'll easily be able to actually catch up to the actual racer by just pressing or basically holding circle, and you end up finishing the actual event. Anyway, so we have the police spec, which is actually a sub. This is actually the first ever subclass. Now, the subclasses are usually like, okay, this is actually one of the only subclasses or sub specs for the most part. Though, so the police spec is what they use for different different missions. For example, the Nissan GTR you see here as a cop car is usually being used in perspec events. And there's also vehicles like the Skyline R34, the Chevrolet Impala, the Hub1 circuit spec vehicle, the Ferrari 458 Special GT2 race car, the McLaren 12C GT3 race car as a police car, and even some trucks were added to the mix, like the Hummer H1, the Jeep Wrangler, and even the Ford F-150 Raptor. And some ridiculous ones like the, the Police Fiat 500, a Barth, and even some of the speed units like the Ford GT or even a Lamborghini Aventador, as well as a Gear it was a Gear R, not a Gear S, dear lord. So there was actually a lot of variety. Well, there are basically a variety of vehicles, to say the least. But these aren't your first vehicles. Nah, you actually get your hands on the first ever newer vehicles you actually get around that time, which is a Mercedes-Benz GLC 250, which is a 2.5-liter inline-4 powered Mercedes-Benz. And let's just say that it received some controversy. The reason being because a lot of people wanted a newer AMG that's a sports car, not a crossover SUV. So there's that for the most part. Now, overall, the missions are actually not bad. It's basically the same as actually going to the actual, the actual offense crate missions for the most part. And there are 4 abilities that the cops had, and as well as what the racers have. But 2 of these are a lot different than it seems. One of which is obviously the flashbang as well as the EMP shock. But there are 2 different ones for the most part. There's the helicopter, and there is the helicopter. There's a EMP field. Well, the racers have unlimited nitrous and the Guardian. And I was wondering what the heck the Guardian is. Is essentially a it's basically it counters everything for the most part. Same thing goes with the actual process of it for the most part. So let's say, for example, that you get hit with an EMP field, you can actually deactivate it, and you're basically good to go. Now, let me explain what these abilities do. So basically, the flashbang actually blinds any possible pursuers. EMP shock actually deactivates car control and actually just moves it to a random direction. It turns I explained Guardian already. Unlimited nitrous actually gives you the ability to actually use unlimited nitrous. That's basically in the name of itself. But in terms of cops, you actually get the EMP field, which is a, well, for the most part, it's basically to slow down the pursuers and runners, and lastly you got the helicopters, and literally the helicopters usually will follow the actual player unless, well, has to get more stuff added. So yeah, overall I played the Crew ever since I got the game in 2015, and it was one of my favorite games to actually play in during my time in high school, because around that time Need for Speed didn't make another game until 2015, and thus a lot of us were actually quite happy about the Crew being there, and for the most part, it's not just being there, but it's also to be that one game that actually wants to actually full on going into for the most part. is actually it's crazy how this game is going to be shut down, and it's not even a full-on, it's not offline based, it's online based for the most part, meaning that if the game is shut down, that means the game ceased to work. And was I wondering, I had the game on disc. Like, I kid you not, I had the game literally on disc. Yeah, basically you'll be like, okay, this is the server. And unfortunately, this server game is actually it's not gonna work anymore because of how. Because why would it? Like, what the heck, man? So it's basically the same thing as TDU2 when it shut down. But here's the thing. Unlike TDU2, I'm actually sad about the cruise shutting down. I wasn't sad about TDU2 at all, to be completely honest, because I'd rather that game be a single player game than an online racing game. Now, the reason why I say that is quite simple. I really have bad experience with Test Drive Limited 2's online thing for the most part. Actually, the online community was extremely toxic. I literally was. Keep in mind, I was only 15 when I started playing GTA Online, Test Drive Limited 2 for the most part, and it sucks, man. I kid you not. Like I ain't been there when it comes to like a toxic community, like say a toxic racing game community. Like I was like, man, I haven't played Test Drive since Unlimited on the PS2, and there's a game coming out. There is a game on PS3. Man, I need to get that. And not only that, I didn't bother beating it, but a lot of other games like took priority. So yeah, I didn't bother beating the game as a whole, being Test Drive as a whole, but. Unlike that game, I ended up being the crew. In fact, if you want to check out my Let's Play of it, I have a full-on, is that what I was saying? Basically, if you guys want to talk, no, if you guys want to check out my Let's Play of the crew, there is a playlist for it. It'll be labeled under the number 2, yeah, basically the number 2 Let's Play for the most part. In fact, this game actually got me a second playlist, a second Let's Play, and actually legit have fun with it. And this was before Gran Turismo, Gran Turismo, Car X, and even Need to Be Payback. Like, keep in mind, this was before I ended up picking up Need to Be Payback for extremely cheap. Like, I got that game for like, I think $30 to say the least. Like, it was, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, I think with that being said, we will miss you, the crew. You and your ridiculous physics. The story was gritty and dark, but once again, we will miss you. So in the end, the crew actually inspired another game for the most part, and we ended up going with, instead of the gritty parts of the story that we all want brought back, it's much more lighthearted, funny as heck, cringy as heck, even heck, I even say it will be like one of the more lighthearted games of all time. Like it went from gritty, dark to lighthearted and silly. That's basically what it is. So basically, the next video, which will be later today, will be of me ranking every single season from worst to freaking best. Now I have now since there's now 10 of them, it'll be a lot easier for me to do all 10 versus me doing instead of doing it in parts for the most part. And for those I'm wondering, no, I'm not gonna talk about the other DLCs because unlike the other DLCs, the seasons are probably the most, I would say, the most proper thing in the actual the Crew 2 game. Now, the Crew 2 is by far one of the many games actually in a game for Christmas for the most part. Like the same thing with the first The Crew game, as well as Need for Speed 2015 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3. So basically, I'm getting those three for Christmas. And so yeah, without any further ado, if you guys like this video, leave a like, subscribe, comment down what's next, video the notification, be notified on new stuff from the channel, and all my socials, my about page. So without any further ado, this got to sign off, and I will see you guys in the Crew 2. Peace.